Story: The Tale of Mary and the Lost Necklace. In the heart of a bustling city, nestled amidst towering skyscrapers and the ceaseless hum of urban life, there stood a grand department store that had been a fixture for generations. Within its labyrinthine aisles, Mary, a young woman in her 20s, worked as a sales associate. Among her most cherished possessions was a necklace, a delicate, antique heirloom that had been passed down through her family for generations. Each time she wore it, it served as a tangible connection to her roots and a reminder of the love that had been woven into its intricate design. One balmy afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mary was preparing to close up the store for the day. The lingering echoes of shoppers had faded, leaving behind an eerie stillness. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized that the treasured necklace, which had been securely fastened around her neck, was no longer there. Panic surged through her veins as she frantically searched her surroundings. She retraced every step, every display, and every corner of the store, her mind racing with worry. Desperation clawed at her as the minutes turned into hours and her frantic search yielded no results. Her coworkers had long gone home, leaving Mary alone with her fear and despair. As she stood near the cash register, her eyes brimming with tears, she noticed a colleague named Sarah entering the store to retrieve a forgotten item. Sarah was known throughout the store as someone with a remarkable ability to connect with people. She approached Mary, concern evident in her kind eyes. Without hesitation, she asked, "Mary, is everything okay? You look upset." Tears welled up in Mary's eyes as she explained her predicament. She poured out her anguish, describing the necklace's sentimental value and how she couldn't bear to lose it. Sarah listened with undivided attention, offering a reassuring smile as Mary's story unfolded. Without a second thought, Sarah said, "Mary, I'll help you find that necklace. Let's start by retracing your steps together." Mary was taken aback by Sarah's genuine offer of assistance. Together, they embarked on a meticulous search, revisiting every nook and cranny of the store. As they walked through the aisles, Sarah initiated friendly conversations with other employees who were still present, making each person feel valued and important. She asked about their days, shared some laughter, and even complimented their work. As they continued their search, one of Mary's co-workers, Jenny, approached them. She had been one of the people Sarah had engaged in conversation earlier. Jenny remembered seeing Mary's necklace on a mannequin near the jewelry section earlier in the day. With a sense of relief and excitement, they rushed to the jewelry section. There, hanging from a display stand, was Mary's precious necklace. Tears of gratitude filled Mary's eyes as she gently cradled the necklace in her hands. She couldn't believe her luck, but more importantly, she couldn't believe the kindness she had encountered from her coworkers, especially Sarah. The takeaway from this story is profound. Sarah's ability to win friends and influence people went far beyond her social skills. She had not only helped her colleague find her lost necklace, but also fostered a culture of camaraderie and positivity within the workplace. Dale Carnegie's principles of showing genuine interest in others, making them feel important, and building connections had not only enriched Mary's life but had also created a warm and supportive atmosphere at the grand department store, where people went the extra mile for one another. The Tale of the Worried Shopkeeper. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village, there lived a shopkeeper named Thomas. Thomas was known throughout the village for his habit of worrying incessantly about the smallest things. He would fret over minor inventory discrepancies, stress over the weather affecting his sales, and lose sleep over the tiniest details of his shop's appearance. One day, as Thomas was meticulously rearranging his store shelves for what seemed like the 100th time, a wise old friend named Robert entered the shop. Robert had a calm and serene demeanor that contrasted sharply with Thomas's agitated state. He could see that his friend was visibly distressed. "Thomas, my friend," Robert said with a gentle smile, "why do you let these small matters consume your thoughts and steal your peace of mind?" Thomas, wiping sweat from his forehead, replied, "But Robert, these details matter. If I don't worry about them, who will? They're essential to the success of my business." Robert nodded thoughtfully and then shared a story of his own. He told Thomas about a time when he had run a small farm and how he used to fret about the growth of every individual crop. He worried about the weather, pests, and soil quality, losing sleep over the variables he couldn't control. One day, Robert continued, an old farmer visited me and saw the worry lines on my face. He told me something I've never forgotten. He said, "Young man, you can't control every aspect of nature, and life is full of uncertainties. But you can control how you react to them. Focus on the big picture and don't sweat the small stuff." Thomas listened intently to his friend's story and realized that he had been allowing the small, uncontrollable details to overshadow the larger perspective. He had been neglecting the joy of running his shop and interacting with the villagers because of his excessive worrying. From that day forward, Thomas made a conscious effort to let go of his needless worries. He still paid attention to his business, but he learned to distinguish between what truly mattered for its success and what was merely small stuff. As a result, he found greater peace of mind and more time to enjoy life and build meaningful relationships within the village. The story of Thomas reminds us of the importance of not sweating the small stuff. While it's essential to attend to our responsibilities, obsessing over every minor detail can rob us of our happiness and fulfillment. Dale Carnegie's book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, offers guidance on how to shift our focus from needless worries to a more balanced and joyful perspective on life. Story: The Transformation of Mrs. Brown. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, there lived a woman named Mrs. Brown. She was well known among her neighbors for being perpetually pessimistic and constantly fretting about life's uncertainties. No matter how sunny the day or how peaceful the surroundings, Mrs. Brown seemed to carry a dark cloud of worry with her. One summer afternoon, as Mrs. Brown was tending to her garden, her neighbor, Emily, approached her with a friendly smile. Emily was known for her positive outlook on life, and she often radiated a sense of serenity that seemed to elude Mrs. Brown. Emily struck up a conversation with Mrs. Brown, asking about her day and showing genuine interest in her thoughts and concerns. Mrs. Brown hesitated at first, not used to anyone paying attention to her worries, but Emily's warm and empathetic nature put her at ease. As the weeks went by, Emily continued to visit Mrs. Brown, sharing stories of her own experiences and offering a listening ear. She introduced Mrs. Brown to the concept of mindfulness and the idea of living in the present moment rather than constantly worrying about the future. Emily recommended books, including Dale Carnegie's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, which had profoundly impacted her own life. Mrs. Brown was skeptical at first, but over time she began to embrace Emily's advice and started applying the principles from the book. She learned to let go of needless worries and focus on the here and now. Mrs. Brown began to find joy in her daily activities, whether it was tending to her garden, chatting with neighbors, or simply appreciating the beauty of the world around her. As the months passed, a remarkable transformation occurred within Mrs. Brown. Her neighbors noticed that she seemed happier, more relaxed, and even started sharing her newfound optimism. Instead of dwelling on life's uncertainties, she began to embrace the opportunities it presented. One day, a younger neighbor who had recently faced a challenging situation approached Mrs. Brown for advice. Mrs. Brown, now a beacon of positivity, shared her wisdom and helped the neighbor navigate through the difficulties. Her advice was not only practical but also filled with the wisdom of someone who had overcome her own worries. The transformation of Mrs. Brown serves as a testament to the power of adopting a more positive and mindful approach to life. Dale Carnegie's principles, as found in How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, played a crucial role in helping Mrs. Brown shift her perspective and find a newfound sense of peace and happiness. It also illustrates the ripple effect of a positive attitude on those around us, inspiring them to face life's challenges with resilience and optimism. Story: The Remarkable Turnaround of Tom's Team. In the bustling corporate world, Tom was known as a sharp and ambitious manager. He had successfully climbed the corporate ladder, but he was also infamous for his brusque and demanding management style. His team members often found themselves stressed and demoralized, constantly walking on eggshells. One day, as Tom was reviewing his team's performance, he received some unsettling feedback. His department's productivity had dropped and employee turnover was on the rise. Morale among his team members was at an all-time low. Tom's superiors were concerned and gave him an ultimatum: improve his team's performance or face the consequences. Faced with the possibility of losing his job, Tom realized he needed to make a significant change. He remembered a colleague who had recommended Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He decided to give it a try and began studying the book diligently. As he delved into its pages, Tom learned valuable lessons about empathy, active listening, and treating others with respect and appreciation. He also recognized the importance of building rapport and making people feel important. Inspired by these principles, Tom decided to implement them in his leadership style. Tom began by scheduling one-on-one meetings with each team member, not to discuss work but to genuinely get to know them as individuals. He asked about their goals, interests, and concerns, and he listened attentively to their responses. Tom made an effort to remember their personal details and showed genuine appreciation for their contributions to the team. He also started providing regular feedback, not in a critical or harsh manner, but in a constructive and supportive way. Tom acknowledged his team's accomplishments and encouraged them to take ownership of their work. He began to delegate tasks and responsibilities, empowering team members to make decisions and contribute more meaningfully. The transformation within Tom's team was nothing short of remarkable. As they felt valued and heard, team members became more engaged and motivated. Productivity soared, and the atmosphere within the department became more positive and collaborative. Employee turnover decreased significantly, and Tom's superiors were pleased with the turnaround. Tom's journey from a demanding manager to a respected leader highlights the transformative power of Dale Carnegie's principles. By applying the principles from How to Win Friends and Influence People, Tom not only saved his job but also created a thriving and harmonious work environment. His story serves as a testament to the positive impact that effective leadership and genuine interpersonal skills can have on a team and an organization as a whole. Story: The Healing Power of Forgiveness. In a small, close-knit community, there lived two neighbors, Sarah and Mark. They had been friends for years, sharing laughter, celebrations, and even consoling each other during tough times. However, an unfortunate incident occurred that strained their friendship and left them bitter enemies. The conflict arose over a misunderstanding regarding a property boundary. Disagreements escalated and harsh words were exchanged. Eventually, they ended up in a legal battle that was emotionally and financially draining. The lawsuit went on for years, poisoning their relationship and dividing their once thriving community. One evening, Sarah stumbled upon Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. As she flipped through its pages, she came across a chapter that emphasized the importance of forgiveness and reconciliation. It struck a chord with her, and she realized that she didn't want to live in bitterness and resentment any longer. With a heavy heart, Sarah decided to reach out to Mark. She initiated a conversation in which she expressed her regret for the way things had turned out and her desire to mend their friendship. Mark, initially wary and defensive, listened as Sarah genuinely apologized for her part in the feud. Over time, Sarah and Mark began to rebuild their relationship. They met to discuss their differences, and through open and honest communication, they both realized that the property dispute had been fueled by misunderstandings and hurt feelings. They decided to drop the lawsuit and find an amicable solution together. As their friendship grew stronger, Sarah and Mark shared their experiences with their neighbors, many of whom had been affected by the rift. Inspired by their reconciliation, the entire community began to heal. The atmosphere in the neighborhood shifted from one of tension and mistrust to one of camaraderie and support. Sarah's decision to embrace forgiveness and apply the principles from Dale Carnegie's book had not only repaired her friendship with Mark but also revitalized an entire community. It demonstrated the transformative power of letting go of grudges, seeking reconciliation, and nurturing positive relationships. This story serves as a reminder that forgiveness and reconciliation can mend even the deepest rifts. Dale Carnegie's principles emphasize the importance of building and maintaining positive relationships, which can lead to a more harmonious and fulfilling life. Story: The Gift of Empathy. In a bustling city, there lived a young woman named Emily who worked as a nurse in a busy hospital. Emily was known among her colleagues for her exceptional ability to connect with patients, providing not only medical care but also emotional support during their most vulnerable moments. One day, Emily was assigned to care for an elderly patient named Mr. Thompson who had been admitted with a severe respiratory illness. Mr. Thompson was in considerable pain and distress, and he felt isolated from his family who lived far away. As Emily entered Mr. Thompson's room, she greeted him with a warm smile and introduced herself. She noticed that he appeared anxious and despondent. Emily sat by his bedside and began to chat with him, asking about his life, his interests, and his family. She listened attentively to his stories, empathizing with his loneliness and fear. Over the next few days, Emily continued to visit Mr. Thompson regularly, not only to administer medical care but also to provide companionship and emotional support. She brought him books to read, shared anecdotes from her own life, and even played his favorite music on her phone. She treated him with genuine kindness and respect, making him feel important and valued. As time passed, Mr. Thompson's condition improved and his spirits began to lift. He often remarked to Emily that her presence and empathy had been instrumental in his recovery. He felt as though she had not only cared for his physical well-being but had also helped heal his soul. One day, as Mr. Thompson was being discharged from the hospital, he looked at Emily with tears in his eyes and said, "You've been my lifeline during this difficult time. Your empathy and compassion have made all the difference." Emily's ability to connect with patients on a deep emotional level had not only provided comfort and solace to Mr. Thompson but had also earned her the respect and admiration of her colleagues. She had applied the principles of empathy and genuine interest in others as advocated by Dale Carnegie in How to Win Friends and Influence People. Emily's story serves as a powerful reminder of the impact that empathy and compassion can have on building meaningful relationships and influencing people positively. It illustrates how simple acts of kindness and understanding can make a significant difference in the lives of others, especially during their times of need.